One Orioles reporter sat down with Mike Elias earlier this week. He had some interesting comments about the Orioles bullpen and what direction they could be moving in this offseason. Welcome to Orioles Digest. I'm your host, Kam Brice. And like I say in every video, before you do anything, hit that subscribe button. If you are a part of this percentage, let's change that today. Come join the channel. I'm giving you daily updates about the Baltimore Orioles that you don't want to miss. Now, today we have a special video. Mike Elias sat down with an Orioles reporter earlier this week and had some interesting comments about this team. In a recent Madison interview, Mike Elias said, "I think the bullpen is also going to be a big strength of this team, with a lot of experience and also upside, and just all around talent there. So we feel the team is in a really good spot, and we're very happy that we've got a ton of offseason left." This offseason has been very strange for the Baltimore Orioles, and fans are not happy. They expect us to re-sign Corbin Burnes or even go out and get Max Fried or Blake Snell or Nathan Eovaldi, any of those type of guys, and they failed to do that. But they picked up guys like Charlie Morton and Andrew Kittredge, who no one expected the Orioles to sign this offseason. So we're going to take a deeper look into this interview and a few more comments that Mike Elias gave. Mike Elias also said, "We're very fortunate to be in a spot where we can examine opportunities as they come up. So we're staying in contact with everyone, and we're open for business and fluid, and that could come in a number of shape and sizes, if at all." He said, "We're going to be in the remaining shopping department the rest of the off season." So that was a response to a question from Roch when he asked him how involved are the Baltimore in the trade market. If I was to evaluate the statement, I would say Mike Elias is looking to land either Cease or Castillo. We know the Baltimore Orioles rotation is not as strong as it was last season, but they have a few guys that could have breakout seasons like Grayson Rodriguez, and maybe Zach Eflin could take that next step into a potential ace, in which I don't see, because I believe Eflin is a number two, and that's his role. It fits this team. But if Grayson Rodriguez can take that next step, I don't think losing Burnes will hurt them at all. But back to this comment. We're fortunate to be in a spot where we can examine opportunities. These comments are interesting because earlier in the offseason, Rubenstein and Elias came out in a press conference after the playoffs and said, "We're going to be aggressive this offseason. We're going to try to bring back Burnes. We're going to try to extend guys," but none of that has happened. So where does this team go next? And that's going to get me into my next point of the day. What is next for the Baltimore Orioles? What's next for the Baltimore Orioles? A trade or an extension? I've been talking in so many past videos about extending Gunnar Henderson or Adley Rutschman, and we're kind of going to be circling around the same topics all off season until we get some sort of type of news from Mike Elias and his camp. Does Gunnar Henderson want to be a Baltimore Oriole for life? Does Adley Rutschman want to be a Baltimore Oriole for life? We don't know those answers because those players are never going to come out and say their future plans. They want to keep their market value high so everything runs through their agency and what's going to happen in the long term. Now, for Mike Elias, he has to eventually break the deal. He has to eventually say, "You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go out, give Gunnar Henderson $400 million and see how he responds." Now, $400 million is a lot for Gunnar Henderson. I know, but you got to lock up your young talent right now, and that's the only situation that you're in. Speaking about a trade, we talked about it so many times. Dylan Cease, Luis Castillo. I'm honestly unsure if a trade will happen right now, but I can promise you one thing. They will make a move by the end of this offseason. Could be a low tier move or could be a high tier move. We never know with Mike Elias because he never leaks info, and out of the blue, the Baltimore Orioles make a move like we saw with Charlie Morton, like we saw with Andrew Kittredge. There's so many different types of options they could go to, but they have their minor league players, they have the prospects, they had the draft capital. So eventually, Mike Elias is going to have to get off his butt and make a deal. Could the Baltimore Orioles go to a six-man rotation this season? I was thinking about this a lot. Ordinary in MLB, you have a five-man rotation, but if you have a lot of options on your team and a starting pitcher depth like the Baltimore Orioles, then you will go to a six-man rotation. I would not mind if the Baltimore's had a six-man rotation. If we look at the projected rotation right now, 1, Grayson Rodriguez, 2, Zach Eflin, 3, Morton, 4, Sagano, 5, Kramer. Eh, that's okay. Is it the worst rotation in the AL East? It might be. It might be a little better than the Rays. Definitely not better than the Red Sox. Definitely not better than the Blue Jays or the Yankees. Now, the only cons about having a six-man rotation is when you go out into the AL East and you start getting to that competitive part of the season, you're going to have to simmer that rotation down because you want Zach Eflin and Grayson Rodriguez facing the Blue Jays, Red Sox, or Yankees' best lineups. So, six-man rotation has a lot of pros, has a lot of cons, but I think it's the best situation for the Baltimore Orioles if they don't land Dylan Cease or Luis Castillo. So today we didn't talk about a particular player. We focused on Mike Elias and the Baltimore Orioles. What's next for them? The rotation, the bullpen. Like he said earlier in the video, if you go back and watch it, he had a quote. He said he thinks the bullpen is going to be the strong suit of this team. I completely agree with him. The Orioles bullpen will be dominant. If healthy, they'll be the best bullpen in the MLB. If Félix Bautista is even 75% of himself, watch out. The Baltimore's are going to be scary. But the only problem is, can they get that starting rotation right before opening day? Because that's the only concern lingering with this team. We know the offense is going to produce, but if the rotation is not as good, like I said before, as the Red Sox or Yankees, you're going to fall behind in the AL East. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and come join Orioles Digest.